You're losing the game, and you haven't even realized you're on the board. Your life is a chess match, but not one played elegantly over wine and whispered strategy. Yours is played in silence, in the dark, with pieces you don't know how to move, and decisions driven more by fear than purpose. Worst of all, you don't even know who you are in this game. The pawn, the queen, a spectator, or the king. You've been so focused on appearing strong, smart, charismatic, that you've forgotten the one thing that matters: survival. Your role is to exist. With intention. Your mission? Protect what truly matters, but instead, you keep moving forward aimlessly. No plan, no direction, just noise. Listen closely. The king doesn't need to move often to hold power. He only needs to know who he is, but you've forgotten. Every morning you wake up thinking you need to prove yourself. To everyone, to no one. You're trying to control the board when you can't even control your own thoughts. Let me remind. You are the king, not because of your strength, not because of your speed, but because without you the game ends. And still, you place your value in the hands of pieces that vanish overnight. You think success means having control of everything, being everywhere, knowing all the answers. That's not strategy. That's noise. True strategy starts in silence, knowing when not to move, knowing that not everything that shines is worth chasing. You've lived too long believing that showing strength makes you invincible. But tell me, how strong can you be if you can't even protect your peace of mind? How far can you go if you don't even know what you're chasing? The problem isn't failure, it's the lack of direction. Because if you don't know what you're protecting, anything can distract you. You know what a good player does? He doesn't start by watching the opponent. He starts by knowing his king, knowing his limits, his position, what's truly at stake. Because if you don't know who you are, you won't even recognize when you're losing. And here comes the question you should have asked yourself years ago. What are you defending? Don't tell me your job, your image, your reputation. That's air, that's smoke. What really matters is what's unseen. Your mental health, your emotional balance, your values, your purpose. That's your strength. That's what cannot break. Because when that falls, everything else becomes meaningless, but you keep ignoring it, hiding it, covering it with empty goals and external validation, as if success was applause and not inner peace, as if admiration could make you whole. But the truth is different. The world can cheer for you while you're falling apart inside. What good is a powerful queen if your king is on the edge of collapse? You've played this game like you're untouchable, like it doesn't hurt, like you're a rook, moving in straight lines without hesitation. But you're not. You are the king, and the king moves slowly. The king watches, the king protects. He doesn't win by attacking. He wins by enduring, by knowing when to move and when to stand still. Because the king who runs without thinking dies. Do you see it now? Every time you betray yourself to fit in, it's like placing your king into invisible check. Every time you put others' opinions above your own truth, you leave your soul undefended. Every time you choose to pretend, instead of feel, you lose a vital piece of who you are, and still, you wonder why you can't find peace. It's simple. You haven't built an inner castle. You've built walls on the outside, but inside, everything is falling apart. You've obsessed over external strategy and forgotten the most obvious truth. The real game is played within. You don't need to know how to move others. You need to understand what you are willing to sacrifice and what you're not. That's where self-knowledge begins. Because only someone who truly knows themselves can build a strategy that doesn't destroy them along the way. Only someone who knows their worth can protect what matters, without mistaking the essential for the distraction. But when you don't know your value, you give everything for nothing. And the worst part? Sometimes you do it with a smile, so tell me, how long will you keep trading your principles for approval? How long will you disguise anxiety as ambition? How long will you call this constant noise success when it's the very thing keeping you up at night? This isn't about winning. It's about holding on to what holds you. It's about protecting your core, even when everything around you is falling apart. Because if you lose the king, the game is over. And here's the brutal truth no one tells you. Your most dangerous enemy isn't in front of you, it's already inside. In your unfiltered thoughts, your misunderstood emotions, your unhealed wounds. That quiet inner saboteur. It doesn't scream, it whispers, you're not ready. You're going to fail. Stay where you are and you listen because it sounds familiar. Because you've repeated it for so long. You think it's you, but it's not. You are the one who hears it. And if you can hear it, you can change the message. Real leadership doesn't begin when you lead others. It begins when you lead your mind, when you silence fear, when you choose clarity even in the middle of chaos, because chaos, it never leaves. What changes is you and your ability to move through it. The world may applaud those who win, but it respects those who survive without losing themselves, because success without peace is just a shout with an echo, an empty applause, a crown heavier than it's worth. So the question is, do you want to win or do you want to resist without betraying yourself? Because only one of those will give you freedom. And no, this isn't about being invulnerable. It's about knowing your weaknesses and protecting them wisely. It's about recognizing that you're not immune to pain, but you can be strong within it. It's about building a shield, not from pride, not from arrogance, but from unshakable principles, from purpose, from clarity. Because when you know what you're defending, you don't sell yourself at the first attack. And here's the irony. The more you know yourself, the less you need to prove. The clearer your center is, the less external chaos can shake you. The more you care for your king, the less the battle scares you. True power isn't loud, it's felt. It's the calm of someone who doesn't need to shout. It's the silence that makes noise uncomfortable. It's the steady gaze that says, I know who I am, and I won't move just to please. So tell me, when was the last time you sat with yourself and asked, what do I really want to protect? Because until you answer that, with brutal honesty, you'll keep moving by reflex, not strategy. And those who move by reflex, they lose. The real game isn't won by who moves the most, but by who knows what they'll never give up. And you? Do you know what you'll never surrender? Because if you don't, every offer will look tempting. Every voice will sound wise. Every setback will feel final. But they're not. Failure doesn't define you. What defines you is what you choose. To protect, even when everything else is falling apart, protect your mental health, your emotional stability, your integrity, your purpose. That's not selfishness, that's strategy, that's leadership, that's maturity. The king who survives isn't the fastest, he isn't the loudest, he's the most conscious, the one who refuses to trade the essential for the urgent, the one who doesn't give up peace for applause, the one who doesn't chase recognition, because he knows his worth doesn't depend on being seen. And here's the last, painful truth. If you don't protect your king, no one will do it for you. You are the center. And if you fall, it doesn't matter how many pieces are left on the board. The game ends, so start today. Not with bold moves, not with dramatic changes. Start with one step. Recognize yourself. Look inward. Ask yourself, what am I neglecting that I should be protecting with everything I've got? Because when you know that, you stop playing by instinct. You start playing with intention, and in that moment, even if you only take one step, you've already won more than those who run with no direction. Because real victory isn't about winning the game, it's about not losing yourself. And do you know the most common mistake of those who lose this game? Without even realizing it, they think protecting what's essential means shutting themselves off. That taking care of their inner world is about building walls. That self-knowledge is defense. But let me tell you something that most people will never understand. Self-knowledge isn't defense. It's power. Real power. Knowing yourself doesn't make you fragile. It makes you dangerous. Because when you're clear on what you're not willing to lose, when you know exactly who you are and what you'll never compromise, you become unpredictable to a world built on manipulating the unrooted. Look around you. Most people act from fear, from emptiness, from a deep sense of lack. And what does that create? People who are easy to control. Touch their ego, they fall. Withhold approval, they fold. Offer validation, they sell out. But there's one kind of person who doesn't play by those rules. The one who's done the inner work. The one who's faced their shadows and made peace with them. You can't dominate that person. You can't bait them with applause or break them with rejection because they've already lived it all inside. They don't need to belong. They already belong to themselves. And this is what I want to talk to you about now. The brutal difference between the one who seeks power and the one who seeks clarity. The first, they're a slave to their hunger. The second, they're free because of their purpose. Do you see it? Everyone wants power, economic power, influence, control. But real power? It's not outside of you. It's not loud. It's not visible. And it's definitely not about dominance. It's internal. And here's the messed up truth. Real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand attention. It's the power to look your life in the eye and say, this is who I am. This is what I'm worth. This is what I will never negotiate. It's the power of not needing to shout, because your consistency speaks for you, louder than words ever could. And what feeds that inner power? Clarity that can't be bought, can't be given, can't be faked. It's built, it's earned. And yes, sometimes it's bled for, because clarity isn't knowing what you want when things are easy. It's holding on to it when everything is falling apart. It's facing the storm and saying, this doesn't change me. It's watching everyone run and choosing not to move. Not because you're weak, not because you're slow, but because you already know exactly where you are and exactly where you're going. And that terrifies the ones who are still lost. Clarity is a weapon, one that discomforts, because in a world where everyone doubts everything, the one who walks with conviction shines like a threat. Why? Because they prove something terrifying to the uncertain. Yes, it's possible to have direction. Yes, it's possible to have purpose. Yes, it's possible to live with meaning, if you're willing to stop living for everyone else. But no one tells you this, because if you knew, you'd stop being manipulable. You'd stop buying what you don't need, working in what you hate, tolerating what's killing you slowly, from the inside. That's why this world rewards obedience and punishes lucidity. Because the obedient, they're just pieces, but the lucid, they're kings. And that brings us back to the board. The king without clarity, he's a pawn in disguise. He thinks he's in charge, but he moves by reflex. He panics when a rook falls. He breaks when the queen is taken, because his power was never inside him. It was in what surrounded him. But the king with clarity, he can be alone on the board, surrounded by silence, surrounded by enemies, and still play with intention. Now understand this. Clarity isn't arrogance. It's not pretending you know everything. It's having the humility to admit what you don't, and the wisdom to not act from that space. It's knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to charge forward and when to hold back, to protect what you cannot afford to lose. Because self-knowledge isn't just about knowing your strengths. It's about knowing your limits, your blind spots, your obsessions, your wounds. Because if you don't see them, someone else will, and they'll use them. They'll press exactly where it hurts, unless you've already gone there first. Unless you've acknowledged it, faced it, healed it, then they lose control. Then you stop reacting and you start choosing. That's the next level of the game, the level reserved for the ones who decide. Because in life there are two types of people, those who react and those who choose, those who live at the mercy of the board, and those who control their next move, and only the ones who choose lead, not others, themselves. Here's the harsh truth. If you don't decide your life, someone else will, not even out of malice, but simply because empty space always gets filled. And if you don't fill your life with purpose, the world will fill it with noise, with consumption, with comparison, with expectations, and you, without even realizing, will be living a borrowed life. A life that sounds good, but was never yours. And what's the point of winning a game where you didn't even write the rules? That's not victory. That's decorated slavery. It's success, with a taste of defeat. And worst of all, you won't even know it until it's too late. Until one day you wake up, look yourself in the mirror, and don't recognize who you are. Don't know why you do what you do. Don't remember what you were ever fighting for in that moment. That is checkmate, because once you've lost touch with what's essential, there's no move left that can save you. And that is where balance comes in. Another forgotten pillar of inner leadership, because it's not enough to know yourself. You have to take care of yourself. And no, I'm not talking about spas or weekends off. I'm talking about protecting your center, nurturing your mind, feeding your values, silencing what doesn't serve you, filtering what enters your mental space. Because your mind is fertile ground, and whatever you plant there will grow. So what are you planting? Clarity or noise? Because if you spend your days consuming distractions, listening to fear, comparing yourself to filtered lies, what do you expect to grow? Peace? Purpose? Not a chance. That's when the rot begins. First quietly, then obviously, until one day. The board looks good on the outside, but inside, you already know you've lost, and that's the saddest part. Because the outside can be rebuilt. But when the king falls within, everything else becomes just decoration. So I'll say, again, take care of your center, your mind, your balance, your purpose. Not because you're fragile, but because you are essential. And if you fall, everything else loses meaning. Still not sure? Then answer me this. How many decisions in your life have come from fear, and how many from clarity? That answer right there will tell you if you're playing the game or just moving pieces. And if you've made it this far, if you've heard every word without flinching, it means something. It means there's a voice inside you whispering, "This is for me." That's not coincidence, that's consciousness, pushing you, telling you to wake up because you're standing at a critical point, a crossroads, where you can either keep living a borrowed life, or you finally decide to take control of the board. But hold on, don't leave yet, because the most powerful part comes now. Have you ever felt like you're moving forward, but you're lost? Like every achievement feels emptier, every victory just a patch that never covers the void. You're not failing, you're just disconnected. Because when you forget what you're truly defending, everything starts to feel irrelevant, and that kills you slowly. The soul doesn't die with a blow, it dies in silence, it dies from habit. It dies from living every day without direction, without meaning, without purpose, from sacrificing the essential to chase the urgent. And you know what's the most ironic part? You probably already have everything you need inside you to change everything. You already know it. You've already felt it. But you're afraid. Afraid that once you act, there's no turning back. And you're right, there isn't. Because once you start living with clarity, you can't unsee the truth. You can't go back to noise. You can't pretend comfort is enough. And that, yes, it's terrifying. But it's also freedom. Damn beautiful freedom. The kind that only belongs to the few who dare to look within and say, "This is who I am, and I'll never betray that." So here's the last question, the one you can't ignore. Are you going to keep moving blindly? Or are you going to start playing for real? Because this isn't about motivation. It's not about background music and catchy edits. It's about facing yourself and having the guts to hold on. It's about building yourself from within. Brick by brick, principle by principle. It's about learning to say no to what sounds good but takes you away from what's true. It's about walking with intention while everyone else runs without a clue. And when you get this, when you really get it, the board stops scaring you. Because now, you don't move to please. You don't move out of fear. You don't sacrifice your king for a pawn made of applause. You play to protect what matters. You move with consciousness. And that makes you invincible on the inside, untouchable, unstoppable. So don't tell me you can't. Don't tell me it's too late. What you need isn't time. It's a decision. Just one thing. Today, right now, protect your center, even with the smallest choice. Even if no one sees it. Even if it feels insignificant, because the truth is, that's the most important move of all. The one that holds your inner kingdom. And before you go, I want you to do something. Go to the comments and write, "My king doesn't give up." Say it like a declaration. Say it like a promise to yourself. Because if you're still here, that means something clicked. It means one phrase, one truth made you pause and think, this is what I needed to hear. And that's not entertainment, that's awakening, so subscribe. Not because you were amused, but because you're ready. Because from now on, every move you make will be different. Because you don't just move, you move with purpose. And that separates you from the rest, so go ahead. Write it down. My king doesn't give up, and get ready. Because what's coming isn't a game. It's life. Played by someone who finally remembered who the true king is. See you in the next video, or maybe we'll meet in the silence between one move and the next.